I'm not going to lie. This feels extremely weird that the Jaguars actually have a franchise quarterback that's locked in for a long, long time. I'm not used to this at all. Welcome everybody to JG9 News, where we talk all things NFL all the time. I'm Jared Garrett, representing the 904 from the 602, and today we have news about the Jacksonville Jaguars and their quarterback situation, because Trevor Lawrence, the number one pick in the NFL draft in 2021, is officially staying in Jacksonville for a very, very long period of time. He was under contract this year. The Jags picked up his fifth-year option, and now they have him locked up for 5 more years after that, meaning that this side right here, Trevor Lawrence, is going to remain in Jacksonville until the 2030 season. 5 years, $275 million, $200 million guaranteed, and $142 million right at signing. Now, a lot of people are talking about the contract, how it's an overpay, how it doesn't make a lot of sense that he's getting that much, how he's overrated. I'm going to break everything down in this video. First off, you have to remember that this contract, as expensive as it is, it doesn't take effect until 2026. He's on the rookie deal this year. He's on the fifth-year option in 2025. So don't really look at this like a 5-year, $275 million deal. It's not like the Kirk Cousins deal where they sign him in free agency and all 4 years it starts in year 1. This deal really doesn't start until 2026. So you have to look at this like a 7-year deal where he won't hit free agency until the 2031 offseason. And if you look at it like a 7-year deal, it averages out to a hair under $40 million per year, which obviously looks a heck of a lot better. Now, no one's denying that this isn't a lot of money. It is a lot of money. It puts him in line with Joe Burrow. It is one of the most expensive contracts in the NFL as of this moment. But this move makes a ton of sense for a lot of reasons. Number one, you want to get ahead of the curve. When it comes to quarterbacks, quarterback contracts only go up and up every year. And every single quarterback that gets signed, no matter how good they are, if they're in that top tier of guys or top 2 tiers of guys, it resets the market. Look, if you waited until Tua Tagovailoa got his deal or Dak Prescott got his deal, then we could be looking at $300 million or $60 million per year. We could be looking at a much more expensive contract because every quarterback resets the market. And remember that the NFL is a growing business. They just came off their greatest year ever from a revenue standpoint, from a rating standpoint. The salary cap is only going to go up on a year-to-year basis. The cap does not go down year to year. Unless there's a global pandemic, the cap does not go down. Media rights only go up. International expansion, that is a big part of the revenue. A possible 18th game. The new CBA could be expiring by the start of the 2031 season, so we could have the 18th game by that point. This is going to look like an incredibly mid-contract for quarterbacks of Trevor's tier by the time it even starts kicking in 2026. And if you want to know what I mean by that, remember the Christian Kirk deal? Remember when the Jaguars signed Christian Kirk in free agency in 2022? Everyone talked about how that was a huge overpaying. Including myself. Everyone's like, why are you giving Christian Kirk all this money? Make him a top 5 receiver? He's not that. He wasn't that in Arizona. Why are you doing this? But now, because the salary cap is going up and the market's resetting, his contract is 25th amongst all wide receivers. That's it. 25th. And every Jaguar would take that deal in a heartbeat, especially if you look at how bad the Jaguars were last year when Christian Kirk was not in there and was not a part of the offense. I think most people would agree that Christian Kirk is a top 25 receiver in football, and the market says that he's paid like a 25th receiver, not like he was in 2022. So, again, the market resets year to year. And look at Patrick Mahomes. Obviously, I'm not comparing Trevor Lawrence to Patrick Mahomes. That is not the point of this. Obviously, you give me Patrick Mahomes out of Trevor Lawrence 10 times out of 10. But Patrick Mahomes, when he got his massive deal with the Chiefs, remember that deal? 10 years, $450 million, averaging $45 million per year. Monumental contract at the time. Now, well deserved. I think everyone knew that was a good deal. And people were like, Patrick Mahomes, he's in line to make it to the Hall of Fame. Great deal. That's a lot of money, but it's deserved. Now, there's 6 quarterbacks averaging more than $50 million per year. Mahomes reset the market just a few years ago, and now he's not even top 5. Heck, a decade ago, Joe Flacco, after winning the Super Bowl, had a $29 million cap hit, and people were losing their minds. Now, $29 million for a quarterback in today's day and age is absolutely nothing. So yes, this deal might look like a lot on the surface right now, But if you look at it like a 7-year deal, and you look at it like quarterbacks reset the market every single time, this deal is going to look a heck of a lot better in probably a month when Tua gets his deal and whenever Dak Prescott gets his deal, whether it's this year or whether it's this offseason. And on top of that, it's not exactly a question mark with Trevor about whether he's the guy or not. Obviously, there's questions about whether he can be a top 3 or a consistent top 5 guy, but this is not like a Daniel Jones situation. This is not like a Blake Bortles situation where you sign a guy to a long-term deal, sign a guy to a massive contract, and you have questions about whether he is the franchise guy. Trevor Lawrence is a franchise quarterback. Anyone that watches the Jaguars will tell you that he is a franchise quarterback. Some of the stats are incredibly misleading. Now, yes, the fumbles, that's a problem. He will clean up the fumbles. No one's denying that. But the career stats, I see a graphic all the time that says that Trevor Lawrence and Daniel Jones have almost identical stats. That is the most misleading graphic I've ever seen. The first year was with Urban Meyer, where his top receivers were Tavon Austin and Laquan Treadwell. Those were his best wideouts. Urban Meyer didn't know who the players on his own team were. He didn't do any coaching. You could write a book about how disastrous that Urban Meyer year in Jacksonville was. It felt like 10 years. The last 2 years, with a coach that knows what he's doing, Trevor Lawrence has 8,129 passing yards and 46 touchdowns. That's an average of 4,064 yards per season and 23 touchdowns, and a lot of them are not in garbage time. There are only 4 quarterbacks in that stretch with more passing yards than Trevor Lawrence. Patrick Mahomes, Jared Goff, Josh Allen, Tua Tagovailoa. Pretty good company to be in. The 46 touchdowns, that's top 10 in that stretch. He stays healthy for the most part. He's only missed 1 game in his career due to injury. And the Jaguars have had 2 winning records over the last 2 seasons with Trevor's the guy after just 1 winning record in the previous 14 seasons. And even if the stats don't look the best, and again, the stats look fine, the stats look really good, but even if they don't look the best and you think they're a bit underwhelming, remember that the Jags had tons of drop passes, multiple interceptions last year where the receivers dropped the ball. Remember the Tank Bigsby interception in week 1 that went right off his hands in that game against the Colts? Remember that game where it looked like the Jags were going to blow it because Tank Bigsby couldn't hold onto the football? Again, it's not Trevor Lawrence's fault. There are 3 positions in football where if you have a franchise guy, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You pay him, and you figure out the rest from a cap perspective. You got to get it done no matter what happens. There are some positions like safety, running back, off-ball linebacker, maybe interior of the offensive line, wide receiver 2, where you can decide, you know what, good player, but we don't want to give him a lot of money because it's going to screw up our cap. There are 3 positions where you pay him and then you figure out the rest. Quarterback, edge rusher, and a left tackle. Those 3 positions, if you have a franchise guy, you pay him, no questions about it. I think everyone could say that Trevor Lawrence is a franchise guy. Now, is he as good as we expected as the number 1 pick? I think a lot of people had super high expectations for him. I think he's really good. I think Jags fans will tell you that he is really, really good, and this is a great deal. And this is the first real time in my life that I've seen a franchise quarterback get a deal in Jacksonville with no question marks. This is uncharted water for me. This is new territory. The only 2 quarterbacks I've seen get extended as starters in my lifetime as a Jaguars fan were David Garrard and Blake Bortles. David Garrard got extended after the 2007 season, got a lot of money, and there were obvious questions of whether he was the guy or not because he did have an injury history. He did get hurt during that 2007 season, and on top of that, he had 1 good season, and that was it. He had 1 season where he was playing pretty well, played at a Pro Bowl level, should have made it over Derek Anderson that year, but other than that, he didn't do a whole lot. He was solid, but I think there were some obvious questions of whether he deserved all the money. And then Blake Bortles, when he got his contract after the 2017 season, obviously that was incredibly divisive. A lot of people were like, is he the franchise guy? He's probably not. This is a man that we probably need to replace in the 2018 NFL draft. If Lamar Jackson's on the board, do you take him? Did Bortles hold the Jaguars back? Was that playoff run somewhat of a fluke? It was very divisive when he got the contract. There's no debate. There's no debate. Trevor Lawrence is the guy. Trevor Lawrence is the franchise. You had to get this done. The Jags did not mess around. They got it done before Tua got his deal, before Dak got his deal, before Jordan Love got his deal. They did it right now, and then when the market resets in the next 12 months, this deal is going to look a heck of a lot better. It already looks really good. It's going to look a heck of a lot better as the salary cap goes up and as these quarterbacks are getting their deals. So Trevor Lawrence locked into Jacksonville until 2030. He's a free agent in the 2031 offseason, and that's not even counting the franchise tag if the Jags really want to do it. They can franchise him in 2031. So really, he's in Jacksonville until 2032, which I'm really, really happy about. The franchise, the Prince, is staying in Jacksonville, and I'm really, really happy about that. No real surprises for me. I'm just really happy they got it done before training camp, so there was no controversy, and so that the salary cap doesn't look as worse as it would have if we waited for other QBs to get their deal. But what are your thoughts on the Trevor Lawrence contract? Do you think it's a good move? Do you think it's an overpay? Do you think Trevor Lawrence is the franchise guy in Jacksonville? How well do you think Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars are going to do in 2024? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And that is going to do it for this episode of JJ9 News. Be sure you like and subscribe. It helps the channel out a lot. And be sure to check out my main channel, Jaguar9, where we talk all things NFL history all the time. Until next time, this is Jaguar9 signing off. And as always, go Jags. Trevor, welcome home.